A racehorse known for its uncontrollable rage is released on the track. But what it did when it came across a helpless child left everyone in absolute silence. The morning sun bathed the expansive Sullivan Ranch, located on the outskirts of New Haven, a traditional town in the American heartland where time seemed to move more slowly. The sound of hooves echoed like a constant symphony while handlers and grooms moved with the discipline of those who know every inch of that rural empire. Sitting on the porch of the main house, Lily Sullivan, just 7 years old, observed the horizon with curious and penetrating eyes. Her wheelchair, specially adapted for her, did not limit her ability to see beyond what many adults could. Her dark hair danced with a gentle breeze, while her small fingers rested on a sketchbook where horses came to life through childish but surprisingly precise strokes. "Lily, it's time for your medicine," said Vanessa, approaching with light steps and a glass of water. Vanessa Sullivan carried in her face the beauty of someone who had once been a model but had abandoned her career for marriage to Richard. Her green eyes, always attentive, hid growing concerns that she tried to disguise with carefully rehearsed smiles. "Mum, Thunder is sad today," commented Lily, accepting the medicine without protest. "How do you know, my love? You haven't even been to the stables yet," responded Vanessa, adjusting her daughter's hair. "I feel it, he's calling me." Vanessa sighed, divided between believing in her daughter's extraordinary sensitivity and the rationality that her husband so valued. Richard Sullivan had built his equestrian empire based on facts, numbers, and a discipline that bordered on coldness. For him, horses were investments, not companions. At the other end of the ranch, Richard was inspecting the facilities with his usual rigidity. Tall, with an elegant bearing and always impeccably dressed even among the stables, he commanded a respect with his mere presence. At his side, Jackson, the new handler, followed, taking notes and agreeing with each observation. "Next month's event needs to be impeccable, Jackson. We have international buyers coming. There can be no failures," affirmed Richard, adjusting the gold watch on his wrist. "You can trust me, boss. I've been working with Thunder every day. He'll be the star of the presentation." Richard narrowed his eyes when he saw in the distance young Tommy, a boy of approximately 12, who helped with tasks in exchange for lodging. The boy was feeding the animals with a care that Richard considered unnecessary, talking to them as if they could understand. "That boy spends too much time with my daughter," he commented dryly. "Make sure he's busy during the event." "I don't want distractions." Jackson nodded, understanding the subtext of that order. In just a few days of work at the ranch, he had already noticed that Lily's presence was a delicate subject for Richard, especially when sponsors or investors were around. In the stable area, Tommy was finishing his tasks when he heard Thunder's powerful neigh. The magnificent white horse, the most valuable in the stud farm, had been particularly agitated since Jackson's arrival. Tommy approached the stall cautiously. "Easy, big guy," he whispered, extending his hand to the animal, which initially backed away but then approached, allowing the touch. "What are they doing to you?" The horse snorted, as if trying to communicate something. Tommy noticed gentle, but unusual marks on the animal's flank, as if someone had used inappropriate equipment. A shiver ran down his spine when he heard footsteps approaching. "What are you doing here, kid?" Jackson's harsh voice cut through the air. "Shouldn't you be in the kitchen helping Mrs. Martha?" "I already finished there," Tommy replied, holding his gaze. "Thunder seems bothered by something." Jackson laughed with disdain. "Now we have an equine specialist. Go to the house and leave the horses to those who understand them." Tommy moved away reluctantly, but as he passed the main house, he saw Lily on the porch looking directly at him. The girl made a discreet gesture, calling him to approach. "Tommy, you need to take me to Thunder tonight," she whispered, with an unusual urgency for a child her age. "Your mother won't allow it, Lily, and your father." "Please, Tommy. Thunder is asking for help. I know he is. I've dreamed about him 3 nights in a row." The conviction in the girl's eyes was disconcerting. Tommy felt torn between loyalty to his young friend and fear of the consequences. What neither of them knew was that at that very moment, Richard was on the phone with one of his main sponsors, revealing plans that would forever change the dynamics of that place. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. Night was falling over the Sullivan Ranch when Richard ended his phone call, visibly tense. His office, decorated with equestrian competition trophies and photographs of award-winning horses, reflected his priorities. On none of the walls was, there, a portrait of Lily. Mr. Nakamura confirmed his attendance at the event, he announced to Vanessa, who had just entered the room. He represents the largest group of Asian investors interested in our horses. Vanessa nodded distractedly, while observing the movement in the stables through the window. Something in his wife's expression bothered Richard. Any problem? He inquired, pouring himself some whiskey. Lily mentioned again that Thunder is different. She insists that he's suffering, responded Vanessa, turning to face him. Maybe we should call Dr. Mitchell to examine him. Richard laughed, a short and dry sound. Childish imagination, Vanessa. Thunder is under Jackson's care, a professional recommended by the best stud farms in the country. Dr. Mitchell is on vacation anyway. I temporarily hired another veterinarian. Without consulting me? Questioned Vanessa, with a hint of distrust in her voice. Richard, you know how much I trust Dr. Mitchell. He's been caring for our animals for years. Business decisions don't need family consultation, he cut her off, finishing his drink in one gulp. By the way, I've been thinking. During the event, it would be better if Lily stayed at your sister's house in town. We'll have many strangers here. A lot of agitation. Vanessa felt a tightness in her chest, recognizing the pattern. Whenever important events happened at the ranch, Richard found ways to keep Lily away from the public eye, as if his daughter were a secret to be hidden. She won't want to go, argued Vanessa. This ranch is her world, Richard. I'm not asking for your opinion. The coldness in his voice was cutting. I've already resolved this. In her room, illuminated only by the dim light of the bedside lamp, Lily was furiously drawing in her notebook. The drawing showed Thunder in a strange position, with ropes around his neck and legs. Beside the bed, a small backpack was half prepared, containing a flashlight, some cookies and a wooden horse-shaped amulet that Tommy had carved for her. A light tap on the window interrupted her concentration. It was Tommy, punctual as promised. With skill acquired in months of secret friendship, the boy helped Lily transfer to a simpler and lighter wheelchair, suitable for uneven terrain. You sure you want to do this, Lily? Your father will be furious if he finds out, whispered Tommy, as he pushed the chair along the back path he knew well. He never comes to my room at night, she responded with a wisdom beyond her years. And Mom takes sleeping pills since the doctor said I would never walk again. The comment, made with childish simplicity, hit Tommy like a punch. The acceptance with which Lily spoke of her condition always impressed him. They continued in silence until they reached the stables, where the absence of security at that hour was an advantage. As they approached Thunder's stall, the horse reacted immediately. His black eyes fixed on Lily, and a gentle neigh escaped, as if he recognized her even in the dim light. See? He knew we would come, smiled Lily. Bring me closer, Tommy. The boy obeyed, positioning the chair very close to the stall. Lily extended her small hand, and to Tommy's amazement, Thunder lowered his majestic head, allowing the touch. The girl closed her eyes, as if absorbing something invisible through that contact. They're hurting him, she affirmed with a trembling voice. Not with whips or spurs. It's something different. Something that scares him. Tommy swallowed, hard, remembering the strange equipment he had seen Jackson carrying the previous afternoon. Lily, we need to go back. If they catch us here... Wait, she interrupted, still connected to the horse. He wants to show me something. At that moment, a noise startled them. Quickly, Tommy pushed Lily's wheelchair behind a pile of hay, partially hiding them. Firm footsteps approached, and Jackson's voice became audible. Tomorrow we start the final phase of training, he was saying to someone accompanying him. Mr. Sullivan wants quick results, and that's what we'll deliver. These methods are controversial, Jackson, replied an unfamiliar voice. If the Federation discovers... The Federation only knows what we show them, cut in Jackson. Besides, it's not a prohibited method, just unconventional. Now come on. I left the equipment in the training room. When the footsteps moved, away, Tommy and Lily breathed in relief. The girl had tears in her eyes. "Tommy, we need to find out what they're doing to Thunder," she implored. "I promise I'll investigate," he assured her, beginning to push the chair back to the house. "But now we need to go back before someone notices our absence." On the way back, neither of them noticed Vanessa's silhouette watching from the bedroom window, a mixture of concern and curiosity on her face. The pieces of a disturbing puzzle were beginning to form in her mind, but crucial connections were still missing. The next morning, as the ranch awakened to another day of work, Richard examined on his cell phone the photos sent by the event organizer. Among them was a list of confirmed journalists and a specific note: confirmed presence of Anna Claire from Global Equestrian magazine. She requested an exclusive interview with the Sullivan family, including all members. Richard's face hardened upon reading that. His determination to keep Lily away from the event intensified even more. The day dawned with a tense meeting in Richard's office. The new veterinarian, Dr. Wagner, a man of few words and shifty gaze, listened attentively to the specific instructions about the animals that would participate in the event. "I want special attention to Thunder," emphasized Richard, pointing to the photo of the imposing white horse on the wall. "He is the center of everything. The Asian investors are particularly interested in his lineage." "I understand, Mr. Sullivan," replied the veterinarian, avoiding prolonged eye contact. "Jackson updated me on the special regimen you're applying. I'll provide all the necessary supplements." The hesitation in the word supplements did not go unnoticed by Richard, who smiled discreetly, satisfied with the silent complicity. "Great. Now, there's another matter." He lowered his voice, even though they were alone in the office. "I need you to prepare a detailed report on risks of accidents in the training area, especially involving people with reduced mobility." The veterinarian frowned momentarily, but soon his expression returned to professional neutrality. "For safety purposes, I presume?" he asked, maintaining a neutral tone. "Exactly, safety," confirmed Richard without elaborating. The conversation was interrupted when Vanessa entered without knocking, something unusual for her. Her face showed a mixture of determination and distrust. "Good morning, Doctor," she greeted coldly before turning to her husband. "Richard, we need to talk about Lily's wheelchair. I found something strange in the braking system." Dr. Wagner cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. "We'll get back to this later," Richard said to the veterinarian, who quickly withdrew. As soon as they were alone, Vanessa placed the small metal piece she had found on the desk. "This came loose from Lily's wheelchair this morning. It seems to have been tampered with," she accused, with her eyes fixed on her husband. "Who would do this, Richard?" Richard examined the piece with feigned surprise. "Probably natural wear and tear. That chair has years of use, Vanessa." "It's new. We bought it 3 months ago," she retorted, crossing her arms. "And last night I saw our daughter being taken to the stables by that boy, Tommy. They were visiting Thunder in secret." Richard felt a pang of irritation, but maintained his composure. "I'll talk to Tommy. He knows he shouldn't approach the horses without supervision, especially taking Lily," he responded calculatedly. "As for the chair, I'll call the technician today, don't worry." In the external area of the ranch, Lily was in her private lesson with Ms. Collins, who came 3 times a week. Although she tried to concentrate on the math exercises, her thoughts remained in the stables. "Lily, are you paying attention?" inquired Ms. Collins gently. "Sorry, teacher. I'm worried about a friend," responded the girl, looking at the horizon. "A friend from school?" asked the teacher, intrigued. "No, a friend from here. He's suffering and nobody believes me." Ms. Collins, accustomed to her students' extraordinary sensitivity, leaned forward with interest. "Why don't they believe you?" "Because he doesn't speak like us," responded Lily with simplicity. "But I understand what he feels. I always have." Before the teacher could question further, Tommy appeared in the distance, waving discreetly to Lily. His face showed urgency. "Teacher, may I go to the bathroom?" asked Lily, already maneuvering her chair. "Of course, but don't take long," granted Ms. Collins, curiously observing the exchange of looks between the girl and the young employee. Away from adult eyes, Tommy approached with quick steps. "Lily, I discovered something," he whispered, crouching beside the chair. "Last night, after we returned, I went back to the stables and followed Jackson to the equipment room. He's using Something called auditory conditioning with thunder. What's that? Asked Lily, feeling a chill down her spine. From what I understood, they use specific sounds to train the horse to react in certain ways. I saw Jackson testing a small device that emitted a high-pitched sound. When he turned it on, Thunder became extremely agitated, almost out of control. Lily's eyes widened with understanding. That's why he's so scared during training, she exclaimed. But why would they do this to him? Tommy hesitated, unsure if he should share his suspicions with a child. I'm not entirely sure, but I heard your father talking to Jackson about creating an impressive spectacle for the event, he responded cautiously. Lily, there's one more thing. I saw your father inspecting the fence near the area where you usually stay during training. He seemed to be measuring something. The girl's expression became thoughtful, an impressive maturity emerging in her childish gaze. Tommy, my father doesn't want me to appear during the event. It's always been like this, she confided, but this time it's different. He seems more determined. At that moment, both saw Jackson approaching the stables carrying a box. Tommy quickly stood up. I need to investigate this. I promise I'll find out what they're planning, he assured her, already moving away. Stay away from the stables for now, Lily. The girl nodded, but in her eyes there was a silent resolution. As she returned to her lesson, she passed by her mother, who was walking hurriedly toward the stables with an expression that Lily rarely saw, determination mixed with fear. Vanessa, after the conversation with Richard, had decided to personally verify what was happening with Thunder. Years of marriage had taught her to recognize when her husband wasn't being completely honest. She might not understand horses like Richard, but she knew well the functioning of the ranch and knew that something was out of place. From a distance, Richard observed his wife's movements from his office window. His cell phone vibrated with a message from Jackson. Everything prepared for the final test tomorrow. Harrier isolated as requested. A cold smile formed on his lips as he replied, Make sure there are no witnesses. The schedule cannot be altered. The afternoon sun fell obliquely over the ranch when Vanessa finally managed to access the training area. Taking advantage of Jackson's momentary absence, she surveyed the space with attentive eyes, looking for anything out of the ordinary. The oval track, perfectly maintained, seemed normal at first glance. It was upon examining the protective fence that something caught her attention. Part of the structure was visibly newer, as if it had been recently replaced. As she approached, she noticed that the new sections were fixed differently from the old ones, with a system that seemed to allow for quick removal. Looking for something specific, Mrs. Sullivan? Jackson's voice made Vanessa startle. The man had approached silently, his face a mask of politeness that didn't reach his eyes. Just inspecting the facilities, she responded, maintaining her composure. After all, this ranch belongs to me, too. Jackson nodded without conviction. Of course. Mr. Sullivan mentioned your recent interest in the stables. Can I help with any technical questions? Vanessa held the handler's gaze, perceiving the underlying tension. Why was this section of the fence replaced? Preventive maintenance, he responded promptly. We identified points of wear that could compromise safety during the event. And this different configuration? Jackson smiled, a calculated gesture. More modern design. It allows for quick adjustments according to training needs. Before Vanessa could question further, the sound of hooves announced the arrival of grooms bringing other animals for training. Jackson took advantage of the distraction. Excuse me, Mrs. Sullivan. I have to supervise the session. Vanessa moved, away reluctantly, but instead of returning to the main house, she discreetly headed to Dr. Mitchell's old office. The veterinarian might be on vacation, but Vanessa still had access to his room. Meanwhile, in the library of the main house, Richard was meeting with two men in suits, clearly executives from the group of Asian investors. They were talking in low voices, examining documents and images of the horses. Thunder's demonstration will be the highlight, affirmed Richard, proudly displaying photos of the animal. His speed and elegance are unmatched. And what about the temperament issues mentioned previously? Questioned one of the executives. We heard rumors about his unpredictability. Richard laughed with studied confidence. Completely overcome. Jackson has implemented a training regimen that will ensure perfect performance. The second executive, older and of few words, finally spoke. Mr. Nakamura appreciates perfection, Mr. Sullivan. Any dissonant element during the event would be unacceptable. Richard caught the unspoken message. Understandably, I guarantee that nothing will compromise the harmony of the presentation. Absolutely nothing. In Dr. Mitchell's office, Vanessa meticulously rummaged through drawers and cabinets. As the owner's wife, she knew the veterinarian's methodical organization well. It was in the last drawer of the desk that she found something disturbing. A partially completed report about Thunder, dated 2 weeks earlier, where the doctor expressed concern about signs of unexplained stress and possible use of unauthorized conditioning techniques. The document was unfinished, as if Dr. Mitchell had been interrupted in the middle of his assessment. Vanessa photographed the pages with her cell phone, feeling her heart accelerate. The veterinarian's sudden vacation gained new meaning. While putting away the document, she heard a noise at the door. She quickly closed the drawer and turned, finding Tommy standing at the entrance, clearly surprised to see her there. "Mrs. Vanessa?" exclaimed the boy, hesitant. "I came to get some medicine for the new horses." Vanessa studied the boy's face, recognizing the improvised lie. "Tommy, I know you've been helping Lily visit Thunder," she said directly. "I'm not angry, but I need to know what's happening." The young man paled, divided between loyalties. "I promised Lily that—" "Tommy, my daughter might be in danger," interrupted Vanessa, showing the photo of the veterinarian's report. "And Thunder, too. Please." Something in Vanessa's sincerity broke the boy's resistance. "They're using a device to control Thunder," he confided in a low voice, approaching. "It emits a sound that only he can hear. It makes him agitated, almost wild. But it only works within a certain radius. I saw Jackson testing it yesterday." "Why would they do this to the most valuable horse on the ranch?" questioned Vanessa, confused. Tommy hesitated before sharing his darkest suspicion. "Mrs. Vanessa, I found this last night," he said, taking a folded paper from his pocket. "It was under your door, but the wind must have blown it into the hallway where I was cleaning." Vanessa unfolded the paper, reading the single handwritten sentence. "Don't. Bring your daughter to the track on Sunday." A shiver ran down her spine as the pieces began to fit together. The modified fence, the tampered wheelchair brake system, Thunder's conditioning, Richard's insistence on keeping Lily away. "My God," she murmured, feeling her legs weaken. "I think your husband is planning—" Tommy couldn't complete the sentence. "An accident," Vanessa finished for him, the horror evident in her voice. "An accident that wouldn't seem to be anyone's fault." At that moment, they heard footsteps approaching. Tommy quickly indicated the back door. "Go. We'll continue this conversation later," whispered Vanessa, putting the paper in her pocket. As she discreetly withdrew, Vanessa spotted Lily on the porch of the main house, observing the stables with an intensity that seemed to transcend her age. The girl turned her face exactly in her mother's direction, as if she could sense her presence, and smiled enigmatically. In the security monitoring room, recently installed at Richard's request, Jackson observed Vanessa's movements on the cameras. His cell phone vibrated with a message from the boss. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" "Yes," he simply responded. "The area is prepared and the device tested. It will work perfectly." What Jackson didn't know was that, while he was typing that confirmation, a small camera had been installed by Tommy in the equipment room, transmitting images directly to the tablet hidden in Lily's room, a birthday present from Vanessa that the girl had never mentioned to her father. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. Night descended over the ranch like a heavy cloak, bringing with it an almost palpable tension. The Sullivan couple's bedroom, Vanessa adjusted herself restlessly in bed, pretending to read a book while observing Richard meticulously preparing himself for sleep. The same ritual as always, with the precision of a Swiss watch. "Something wrong, Vanessa?" he asked, noticing his wife's prolonged silence. "You barely touched your dinner." "I was thinking about Dr. Mitchell," she responded, carefully studying her husband's reaction. I called him today, curious how he didn't. No, he was on vacation. Richard briefly stopped the movement of the brush over his greying hair, but soon resumed with studied naturalness. A misunderstanding, obviously. I temporarily dismissed him so Dr. Wagner could take over the event. Mitchell must have misinterpreted. Like thunder misinterpreted the sound device that Jackson uses in training? She questioned directly, abandoning any pretense. The silence that followed was dense, loaded with unspoken revelations. Richard turned slowly, his face an impenetrable mask. I see you've been investigating matters that don't concern you, he commented coldly. Advanced training techniques are beyond your comprehension, Vanessa. Really? She held her husband's gaze. Then perhaps you can explain to me why Lily's wheelchair was tampered with, or why the fence in the training area was modified exactly at the section that gives access to the place where our daughter usually watches the training. Richard's carefully maintained control began to show cracks. He approached the bed with measured steps. You're creating non-existent connections, he affirmed, but his voice trembled slightly. I suggest you take your sleeping pill and rest. Tomorrow is an important day. There will be no sleeping pill tonight, Richard, responded Vanessa, rising to face him as an equal. And our daughter will not be anywhere near that track tomorrow. For a moment, something dark and unrecognizable passed through Richard's gaze, but was soon replaced by his usual mask of control. Don't be dramatic, Vanessa. Everything I do is for the good of this family and this ranch. Some adaptations are necessary to maintain our standard of living. He made a calculated pause. Mr. Nakamura was quite specific about his expectations for this venture. What expectations would justify putting our daughter at risk? Vanessa's voice trembled with indignation. Richard let out an exasperated sigh. She was never in real danger. I just needed her to be temporarily removed. The plan was simply to create a small controlled incident that would justify keeping her away from the public eye during the event and future negotiations. The horror of the partial confession left Vanessa momentarily speechless. When she finally found her voice, it sounded different, colder, more determined. You're talking about your daughter, Richard, not an inconvenience to be removed. I'm talking about millions in investments, he exploded, finally losing his composure. Do you think Nakamura and the others want to associate their brand with a stud farm whose heiress is a girl in a wheelchair? This world is about appearances, Vanessa. Lily never fit into the image we need to project. The slap hit Richard with surprising force, leaving him momentarily stunned. Vanessa, trembling but resolute, pointed to the door. Get out of this room now. Tomorrow I'll take the necessary measures. For a moment, it seemed that Richard would react, but something in his wife's gaze stopped him. With studied dignity, he adjusted his robe and headed for the door. You don't understand what's at stake, Vanessa. You never did. Meanwhile, in Lily's room, the girl was watching the starry sky through the window, with Tommy sitting beside her chair. On the tablet between them, the images from the hidden camera showed Jackson still working in the equipment room, adjusting the small rectangular device. Did you figure out how it works? Asked Lily in a low voice. Tommy nodded gravely. It's activated by remote control. It emits a sound that profoundly irritates horses, especially Thunder, who was conditioned to react to it. I saw Jackson testing it today. When activated, Thunder becomes almost wild. And the fence? Asked the girl. It can be quickly removed, creating a direct opening to the area where you usually stay, explained Tommy, amazed at Lily's quick understanding. Your father planned to position you there tomorrow during a special training of Thunder. Lily absorbed the information with a disconcerting calmness for a child her age. I knew Dad didn't want me at the event, but I never thought... Her voice failed slightly. We need to save Thunder, Tommy. He's suffering with this. Your mother knows everything now, informed Tommy. I saw her talking with your father, and it seemed intense. A noise in the hallway interrupted the conversation. Quickly, Tommy hid behind the curtains as the door opened. It was Vanessa, visibly shaken but determined. Lily, we need to talk, she said, showing no surprise at seeing the tablet with the camera images. I see that you and Tommy have already discovered quite a bit. He can come out, Mom. We're in this together, responded Lily, with a maturity that always surprised Vanessa. Tommy emerged timidly from his hiding place, expecting a reprimand that didn't come. Instead, Vanessa sat on the bed, holding her daughter's hands. "Tomorrow early morning, we're going to Aunt Helen's house in town," she announced. "It's not safe to stay here now." "We can't go, Mum," protested Lily with surprising firmness. "They'll hurt Thunder. I know it." "Lily, your father—" Vanessa hesitated, uncertain about how much to reveal. "I know what Dad planned, Mum," interrupted Lily, "and I know that he would make it happen one way or another, even if it wasn't tomorrow. We have to stop this completely, not just postpone it." Vanessa looked from her daughter to Tommy, recognizing the resolution in both their eyes. A plan was beginning to form in her mind, bold, risky, but potentially definitive. "What if we could expose everything?" she suggested slowly. "The press cameras arrive early tomorrow for preparations. If we could show them what really happens—" "Here." Tommy nodded affirmatively, already thinking about the possibilities. "I can get the control device tonight," he offered. "Without it, Jackson won't be able to activate the plan." "And I can save the camera images as evidence," complimented Lily, her eyes shining with determination. Vanessa observed the two, divided between pride in their courage and fear of the risks. Deep down she knew she was crossing a point of no return in her relationship with Richard, but looking at her daughter, so brave, so determined despite all obstacles, she understood that some battles needed to be faced regardless of the cost. In the office, Richard was tensely talking on the phone. "Yes, Mr. Nakamura, everything will proceed as planned," he guaranteed, looking through the window at the light still on in Lily's room. "The event will be impeccable. No distractions, no unwanted elements, just the perfect image we promised." Dawn still embraced the ranch when Tommy slipped through the silent corridors toward the equipment room. Each step was calculated, each shadow analyzed. Vanessa's instructions had been precise. Locate and remove the sound control device without leaving obvious traces. The plan was risky but necessary. During the previous night's conversation, the three had developed a strategy that depended on perfect timing and, mainly, concrete evidence. Vanessa would use her press contacts to ensure that Anna Clare, the journalist from Global Equestrian magazine, received unrestricted access to the facilities, something that Richard would certainly try to prevent. Upon reaching the equipment room, Tommy found the door unlocked, the first stroke of luck. With the small flashlight he carried, he methodically examined the environment until he located the device, a compact metal box with an antenna and separate remote control. His heart accelerated when he realized there were two controls, not just one. "Damn," he murmured softly, photographing everything with his cell phone before taking one of the controls. Taking both would be too risky. The absence would be noticed immediately. As he prepared to leave, the sound of footsteps in the corridor froze him in place. Quickly, he hid behind a storage cabinet, praying not to be discovered. The door opened, revealing Jackson and Dr. Wagner. "Why did you call me at this hour?" complained the veterinarian, clearly irritated. "The boss wants guarantees that everything will work perfectly," replied Jackson, heading exactly to where the device was. "I need you to prepare a mild sedative for the girl, something that will make her drowsy, but not unconscious." Tommy felt his stomach churn with the explicit confirmation of the plan. "This is too risky, Jackson," protested Wagner, his voice trembling slightly. "One thing is manipulating an animal's behavior, another is directly involving the child. If something goes wrong—" "Nothing will go wrong," cut in Jackson. "The plan is simple. The girl will be slightly sedated, which will make her reaction slower. The horse will be directed to the area with the removable fence. Everything will appear to be a tragic accident but controlled. She won't really be injured, just frightened enough to justify her prolonged absence." "And if the horse actually hits her?" questioned the veterinarian. The silence that followed was more disturbing than any answer. "That won't happen," Jackson finally guaranteed, without much conviction. "Sullivan has hired strategically positioned security." Tommy mentally registered every word, while sweat ran down his face. There were no more doubts about Richard's intentions. The conversation continued for a few minutes, with details about schedules and positioning. When they finally left, Tommy waited a few minutes before moving, trembling but determined. In the main house, Vanessa was also acting. After ensuring that Lily was sleeping deeply, she went to Richard's office, using the key he didn't know she possessed. She needed documentary evidence that would corroborate the suspicions, something that could be shown to the press if things got out of control. Richard's computer was password protected, but Vanessa knew the sequence, the date of the ranch's foundation, not her daughter's birthday, a detail that had always saddened her. Among the recent emails, she found the confirmation. Correspondence with Nakamura explicitly mentioning the need to keep problematic elements away from the public eye, and references to a small controlled incident that would ensure Lily's absence. She transferred everything to a flash drive, including the contract with Jackson, which specified special training for demonstration of maximum impact. As she was finishing, she heard a noise in the corridor. She quickly turned off the computer and hid behind a bookshelf. The door opened, and Richard entered, looking disturbed. He went directly to the bar, poured himself a generous dose of whiskey, and sat heavily in the armchair, massaging his temples. For a few minutes he remained in silence until his cell phone rang. "Yes?" he answered curtly. "No, Jackson, I haven't changed my mind. The plan proceeds. I don't care if Wagner is hesitant. Remind him of the value he's receiving. The press? They'll arrive at 9. Keep them in the reception area until everything is prepared." Vanessa held her breath, feeling each beat of her heart like thunder. "As for Vanessa and the girl," Richard continued, his voice assuming a calculating tone she had never noticed before, "they will be contained until the appropriate moment. I've arranged people for that. Yes, if necessary, use the sedative. Just ensure it looks natural." When Richard finally left, Vanessa emerged from her hiding place trembling, not from fear, but from cold and calculated fury. The situation was even worse than she had imagined. Richard was planning to neutralize her as well. As she hurriedly returned to Lily's room, she found Tommy in the corridor, equally agitated. "Mrs. Vanessa," he whispered urgently, "I heard everything. They have a complete plan, including sedating Lily." "I know," she replied, pulling him into the room. "Richard plans to contain us somehow. We need to act now. We can't wait until tomorrow." Lily was awake, sitting on the bed with the tablet in her hands. "I saw you both on the cameras," she explained calmly, "and I recorded everything, including Dad's conversation in the office." Vanessa and Tommy exchanged impressed looks. Little Lily had connected the tablet to the ranch's security cameras, a technological ability that neither of them knew she possessed. "We need to leave here now," decided Vanessa, already gathering essential belongings. "Tommy, can you take us through the back to the car in the secondary garage?" The boy nodded, but Lily intervened with surprising firmness. "We can't simply flee, Mum. That won't save Thunder, nor will it prevent Dad from trying again later." Her childish voice carried an unshakable determination. "I have a better plan." Mother and employee looked perplexed at the 7-year-old child, whose expression demonstrated an unbreakable resolution. "We need to use his own plan against him," continued Lily, "and I know exactly how to do that." As she elaborated her strategy, with surprising clarity, Vanessa recognized in her daughter the same calculating intelligence as Richard, but tempered with something her husband had never possessed: genuine compassion. In the stable, Thunder was restlessly moving, as if he felt the growing tension in the air. His neighs echoed in the night, ignored by everyone except for 3 people who now worked feverishly against time, determined to transform a plan of manipulation into a moment of truth that would forever change the destiny of Sullivan Ranch. The sun was rising on the horizon when the first press vehicles passed through the gates of Sullivan Ranch. Among them, a discreet van brought Anna Clare, the respected journalist from Global Equestrian, known for her meticulous investigations into the backstage of the equestrian world. Richard waited at the main entrance, impeccably dressed and with his most charismatic smile prepared. Internally, however, he was boiling with concern. Vanessa had not appeared at breakfast, and when he sent an employee to check, he discovered that neither she nor Lily were in their respective rooms. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press," he greeted, masterfully hiding his anxiety. "Welcome to Sullivan Ranch. We ask that you initially remain in the reception area for credentials before the official tour. Anna Claire, a woman in her early 40s with keen eyes that seemed to see beyond appearances, approached with a polite smile. "Mr. Sullivan, I was hoping to meet your entire family. Won't your wife and daughter join us?" Richard hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Unfortunately, my daughter isn't feeling well this morning. My wife is taking care of her, but they'll certainly join us later." "What a shame," replied Anna, with calculated sincerity. "I was particularly interested in meeting your daughter. I heard she has a special connection with horses." The momentary tension in Richard's face did not go unnoticed by the journalist, who made a mental note. "Just childish stories," he quickly diverted. "Now, if you'll follow me." While leading the group, Richard sent a discreet message to Jackson. "Find out where they are immediately." Far from the curious eyes of the press, in the back facilities of the ranch, Vanessa, Lily, and Tommy were carefully executing their plan. They had spent the dawn reorganizing the evidence and preparing the environment. "Are the cameras positioned?" asked Vanessa, checking Lily's tablet again, now connected to small cameras strategically hidden throughout the property. "Yes, ma'am," confirmed Tommy. 3 in the main stable, 2 on the training track and 1 in the equipment room, in addition to the security cameras that Lily had already accessed. The girl, sitting in her wheelchair, maintained an impressive calmness for someone so young. Her fingers moved agilely over the screen, alternating between different views. "Dad is taking the journalist to the trophy room first," she informed. "That gives us about 40 minutes before they reach the stables." "Time enough," concluded Vanessa, checking the flash drive with the documentary evidence. "Tommy, you know what to do?" The boy nodded, his young face marked by a determination beyond his age. "I distract Jackson while you connect the modified device. Then I take Miss Anna to the right place at the exact moment." "And I?" began Lily. "How you stay here safely, monitoring everything," Vanessa firmly interrupted. "It's the most important part, Lily. We need you to be our eyes." The girl reluctantly nodded. Although her original plan involved her physical presence, Vanessa had been inflexible on this point. Lily's safety would not be compromised. Meanwhile, Jackson was frantically searching the facilities, looking for Vanessa and Lily. His tension increased when he checked the equipment room and noticed that one of the remote controls was missing. He immediately called Richard. "Boss, we have a problem," he informed in a low voice. "One of the controls is missing and there's no sign of your wife or the girl." "Find them!" hissed Richard, momentarily moving away from the group of journalists. "Use the extra men if necessary, and check if that kid Tommy is involved." The handler agreed, hanging up afterward. As he turned, he was startled to find Tommy casually leaning at the entrance to the stable. "Looking for something, Mr. Jackson?" asked the boy with false innocence. "Where are they, kid?" demanded Jackson, approaching threateningly. "Who?" Tommy maintained a neutral expression, though his heart was beating rapidly. "Don't play dumb, Mrs. Sullivan and the girl. I know you're helping them." Tommy shrugged, a calculatedly casual gesture. "The last time I saw Mrs. Vanessa, she was talking to a journalist. Tall woman, dark hair seemed important. They were in the back, near the secondary track." Panic crossed Jackson's face, exactly as planned. Without saying anything more, he hurriedly departed in the indicated direction. Tommy waited until he was out of sight before sending a quick message to Vanessa. "Path clear for 15 minutes maximum." In the improvised press room, Richard was charming the journalists with stories about past achievements and future projects of the ranch. His performance was impeccable, but Anna Claire perceived the underlying tension in his gestures. She discreetly checked her cell phone, noting a message from an unidentified contact. "Evidence ready. Main stable, 11:45. Mr. Sullivan," Anna politely interrupted. "I recently read about controversial training techniques being used in international circuits. What's your position on methods that prioritize quick results at the expense of animal welfare?" The seemingly innocent question made Richard pause briefly. "At Sullivan Ranch, we believe in balance," he responded with his usual eloquence. "Exceptional. Results require discipline, but always within the ethical limits established by the federations." "And are these limits sufficient in your opinion?" insisted Anna, I'm sure you didn't come here to discuss regulations, but to meet extraordinary horses, Richard skillfully diverted. Speaking of which, it's time to meet the pride of our stud farm. As the group prepared to proceed to the stables, Richard received another message from Jackson. No sign of them on the secondary track. The control is still missing. In the improvised technical area, Vanessa was finalizing the last connections. On the modified device, with the help of instructions that Tommy had found on the internet. The boy had surprising knowledge of electronics, acquired in online courses he secretly took at the municipal library. It's working, confirmed Vanessa, observing the small LED light up. Now everything depends on timing. Lily, through the tablet, observed her father leading the group toward the stables. Simultaneously, she saw Jackson returning frustrated from his futile search. "Mom, they're coming," she alerted through the communicator. "And Jackson is also returning to the main stable." "Perfect," responded Vanessa. "It's exactly what we want. Tommy, position." The boy confirmed, quickly heading to intercept Anna Claire as planned. In the stable, Thunder seemed strangely calm, as if he understood the crucial role he would soon play. Vanessa checked all the connections once more, took a deep breath, and sent a final message to the select group of journalists personally chosen by Anna Claire. Evidence of mistreatment and plan to forge an accident at Sullivan Ranch. Main stable, 11:45. Come separately without alerting Richard Sullivan. As she strategically positioned herself, Vanessa thought of Lily, her courage, her extraordinary sensitivity, her inexplicable connection with Thunder. Everything they would do in the next moments would not only be to protect the girl, but to honor this special connection that Richard had never understood or valued. The clocks marked 11:30, 15 minutes until the final confrontation that would forever change not only the Sullivans' lives, but possibly the entire way the equestrian world viewed the relationship between humans and horses. 15 minutes. That would transform years of silence into a powerful revelation. The clock marked 11:42 when Richard Sullivan led the group of journalists to the spacious main stable. The place had been meticulously prepared for the occasion. Impeccable floor, perfectly organized stalls, employees strategically positioned wearing new uniforms with the ranch emblem. A production that had cost thousands, meticulously planned, to impress the investors. "And here he is," announced Richard with rehearsed pride, stopping in front of the largest stall, where Thunder maintained a strangely serene demeanor. "The diamond of our breeding. Pure-blooded from an award-winning lineage, undefeated in national competitions. Thunder is the symbol of excellence that defines Sullivan Ranch." Anna Claire observed everything with critical eyes, recording details that others might ignore. She noticed the subtle discomfort of some handlers, the almost imperceptible tension in Jackson's posture, who remained close to the white horse with excessive vigilance. "He really is a spectacular animal," she commented. "Approaching to observe better. They say horses like this have challenging temperament. How do you handle that?" Before Richard could answer, Tommy discreetly appeared beside Anna, slightly moving his head toward the small side door, as agreed. The journalist almost imperceptibly nodded. "Mr. Sullivan, would you mind if I used the restroom before we continue?" she asked. "Certainly," he responded, indicating the way. "Philip will accompany you." "That won't be necessary," Anna quickly intervened. "I already saw the sign at the entrance. I'll be back in a moment." Tommy, meanwhile, approached some specific journalists, those who had received Vanessa's message, whispering discreetly, "Back area in 3 minutes. Enter separately." 11:47. The tension was growing. Richard constantly checked his watch and his cell phone, his smile increasingly forced as he noticed Anna Claire's prolonged absence and the strange behavior of some journalists who had also begun to disperse. Something was wrong and he could feel it. "Jackson," he called in a low voice, moving away from the main group. "Any sign of them?" "Nothing, boss," replied the handler, visibly nervous. "And there's something strange happening. I saw unauthorized equipment near the training area." Richard felt his stomach sink. His meticulous plan was crumbling, and the presence of the press made everything infinitely more risky. Making a quick decision, he turned to the remaining journalists. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a small adjustment in the schedule. We'll move on to Diamond's demonstration, our second best horse. Thunder will be presented later after... His words were interrupted by a sharp and penetrating sound that filled the air. Everyone present looked around, confused, searching for the source, but it was Thunder's immediate reaction that captured general attention. The imposing white horse, previously calm, began to violently agitate in his stall, neighing almost desperately. "What's happening?" questioned one of the investors, fearfully backing away. Richard paled, recognizing the sound of the control device, the same that should be activated only during the planned accident, not now, not in front of everyone. Jackson ran to the horse, trying to calm him, but Thunder was beyond control, reacting exactly as he had been conditioned. It was at this moment that Vanessa emerged from the technical area, followed by Anna Claire and the journalists who had separated from the main group. Their expressions made it clear that they had witnessed something significant. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced Vanessa with a firm voice, holding the modified remote control, "what you have just witnessed is a demonstration of the auditory conditioning method that has been applied to Thunder, a method that uses high-frequency sounds to provoke controlled panic reactions in the animal." Richard advanced furiously toward his wife. "Vanessa, have you lost your mind? This is a private invasion. These people don't have authorization to—" "They have full authorization," interrupted Anna Claire, displaying her press credentials. "And we have witnessed not only the animal's reaction to the device, but also documents and recordings detailing a plan to use this same method in a controlled accident involving your daughter." The silence that followed was deafening. The investors exchanged horrified looks, while the journalists were already frantically recording the moment. Jackson tried to discreetly retreat, but was blocked by Tommy, who strategically appeared behind him. "This is absurd," protested Richard, trying to regain control of the situation. "My wife is clearly disturbed. We have been using advanced training techniques, yes, but always within ethical standards. As for this story involving my daughter, it's completely fabricated." "Fabricated like these documents, Richard?" questioned Vanessa, while Anna Claire distributed printed copies of the emails and contracts. "Or like the modifications to the fence on the track? Or perhaps like the tampered brakes on our daughter's wheelchair?" Richard's face alternated between paleness and flushing, while his eyes frantically sought support among those present. The Asian investors, led by Mr. Nakamura, observed the scene with indecipherable expressions. "Where is Lily?" Richard suddenly asked, a pang of genuine concern crossing his controlled face. As if answering the question, the tablet in Vanessa's hands lit up, revealing Lily's serene face. "I'm here, Dad," said the girl, her voice transmitted through the stable's speakers. "I'm seeing everything." The technology had been strategically prepared for this moment. Cameras positioned throughout the ranch, connected to the security system, now transmitted everything live not only to Lily, but to a much larger audience through global equestrians' social media accounts as previously arranged with Anna Claire. "Lily!" Richard's voice failed, recognizing the magnitude of the exposure. The moment was interrupted by a powerful neigh. Thunder, still agitated, broke part of the division of his stall. Employees ran to contain him, but the animal was beyond control, conditioned to react violently to the sound that still echoed, though lower. "Turn that off!" shouted Jackson desperately. "He's going to hurt someone." Vanessa looked at the control in her hands. "I can't," she responded calmly. "We programmed it to continue for exactly 3 minutes, the same time you planned to use during the accident with my daughter." Panic set in. Journalists and investors retreated toward the exits, while Thunder finally completely broke out of the stall, advancing through the stable. Richard, paralyzed by the combination of fear and fury, remained in place while everyone moved away. "Everyone out!" ordered Vanessa, maintaining surprising calmness. "The sound will cease in moments." As predicted, seconds later the device silenced. The effect on Thunder, however, was not immediate. The horse, still agitated, moved through the open space, neighing and snorting. Everyone watched in horror, expecting the worst, when something unexpected happened. On the tablet held by Vanessa, Lily's voice sounded clear. "Thunder, it's okay now. I'm here." Inexplicably, the immense animal stopped, its ears moving in the direction of the sound. Vanessa, following the plan they had discussed, slowly approached with the tablet, showing Lily's image to the horse. "Trust me, Mum," asked the girl, her voice conveying a confidence beyond her age. To everyone's amazement, Thunder began to calm down, his eyes fixed on Lily's image. The bond between them, so often dismissed by Richard as childish imagination, manifested in an undeniable way before impressed witnesses. "Impossible," murmured Jackson, letting his surprise escape. Anna Claire, perceiving the magnitude of the moment, approached with her camera, meticulously documenting the incredible connection between the girl and the animal. "Gentlemen," she addressed the Asian investors, "you are witnessing something truly extraordinary." Mr. Nakamura, until then silent, stepped forward. "Mr. Sullivan," he began formally, "we came here interested in excellence and innovation. But what we witnessed today goes far beyond that." His gaze moved from the tablet showing Lily to the now calm Thunder. "This genuine connection between your daughter and this magnificent animal, this is extraordinary. This represents the true spirit of the equestrian world we seek to support." Richard, visibly crumbling before the unexpected turn of events, attempted a last desperate intervention. "Mr. Nakamura, all of this was a misunderstanding. I can explain." "There is nothing to explain," the investor cut in firmly. "Our decision is made. Our investment will be redirected to a new project at Sullivan Ranch, a project focused on equine therapy and human-animal connection, led by one who demonstrates true understanding of this bond. Your daughter Lily, under the guidance of her mother." The shock on Richard's face was accompanied by a murmur of approval from those present. Vanessa, finally allowing herself to smile, approached where Tommy was observing everything with tears in his eyes. "Go get Lily," she asked softly. "It's time for her to meet her new business partners in person." As Tommy hurriedly left, Vanessa turned to the journalists. "The story you came to cover has completely transformed into something else. It's not about scandals or exposures, although that also has its place. It's about recognizing that sometimes the clearest vision comes from those we see as limited. Lily, with her wheelchair, has always seen beyond what we adults, with all our capabilities, could see." When Lily finally arrived, escorted by Tommy, the entire stable seemed to light up. Thunder gently approached the wheelchair, lowering his magnificent head to the level of the girl. The touch between them, so natural and profound, captured the essence of what Anna Claire would later describe in her award-winning article as the purest form of communication, one that transcends words and physical limitations. Richard, isolated in the corner of the stable, observed the scene with a complex mixture of emotions. His empire, as he had conceived it, was crumbling before his eyes. But something new and unexpected was being born from those ruins. Something that, with time and reflection, he might learn to value. 3 months later, Sullivan Ranch would reopen its doors with a renewed purpose. Global Equestrian's cover story would feature Lily and Thunder, not as symbols of fragility or brute force, but as ambassadors of a new understanding of the bond between humans and horses. The title, simple and powerful, captured the essence of the transformation. Silent connections, the gentle revolution in the equestrian world. And on sunny afternoons, visitors from all over the world would marvel while watching a girl in a wheelchair command, merely with her serene presence, the most imposing of horses, proving that true communication transcends physical barriers, and that sometimes the strongest bonds are those that cannot be seen, only felt.